Happy Friday. I'm glad you're here with fertile soil today. The sun is trying to come out, but it's a thunderstormy kind of day and a couple days, but we could use the rain even though people are tired of the rain. My garden is loving it. Today we are going to be talking about the most magical and the most wonderful of herbs, in my opinion, and that is lavender. It is one that has spanned time and memorial. Since time was recorded, lavender has been around. I just want to kind of show you, I do have some that is blooming in my garden for today. There's so many different varieties of it, but I have here, this is Hidcote Blue Lavender, and it is blooming today. It's a little shorter than some. And over here I have my Grosso, and it is not quite showing color, but I don't know if you can see how wonderful and long these stems are. Can you hear the frogs? Smells good. So I have this whole row, and I have some Grosso, and I also have tucked back here, that's getting a little flopped over with my lamb's ear, is some white lavender. So come on down to my potting bench down here, and we'll talk about some of these things here today. Picking up my camera. Whew. It is certainly a lot more humid than it has been the past couple days. So let's talk about how lavender grows and how you can take care of it. Lavender is a perennial, comes up every year. Most of them do. Comes up every year, and it loves the sun, as most herbs do. So put it in a place that's very sunny. And lavenders bloom at different stages, but mostly it's June. June is a great lavender month. And as you saw up in the garden, some of it is open, some of it's still tight, but I think probably in maybe a week that Grosso will be popping open a little bit. Lavender, you throw some lime on the soil. You don't have to fertilize it very much. Most of the time it's easy to grow, but I have found it could be a little persnickety here and there, depending on what variety you're using. We'll talk about those different varieties in a moment. So lavender needs to be trimmed. It can get a woody stem at the bottom, and if you don't trim it and you let it just, it is beautiful when you let it go and get big and big and big. After a while the stems get woody and it's harder to trim, and it really doesn't look nice, and it doesn't produce as nice of a show of flowers for you. So when you do trim your lavender, some people trim it in the fall, some people trim it in the spring. I have many gardener friends, and I don't know if one works better than the other. I trim mine in the spring, early March to late March is when, depending on how the weather is for me, is when I will trim it. When you cut back your lavender, which is an evergreen, by the way, it will stay gray-green all winter long. It doesn't look so nice, but it doesn't die back to the ground. It is technically an evergreen. So when you trim it in March, you're going to want to trim it about, I have a little visual here. This is a picture of when it's blooming, but you do not want to trim your lavender more than a third off of it. That should be sufficient to get a lush crop of it. I trim my lavender. You see, it's full of buds. I will cut my lavender again in a few weeks, actually, when that is finished. I will trim it again, just like that picture, a third of it off. When you cut that off again, you many times will get a second bloom. Your second bloom isn't as lush and full of blooms as the first time, but you still get a second bloom. So lavender is from the Lemonade family again. It's mint, in the mint family. And it has many different varieties. So Lavandula, I don't know why I'm nervous today, but I am. Lavandula angustifolia is one of the main basic hardy types of lavender that works well in the garden. The word lavender is said to come from the Latin word lavare, and that means to wash. And then it is said the Latin word also, there's another theory that L-I-V-I-N-D-U-L-A, livendula, which means, it's another Latin word, which means blue or vivid. So the ancient Romans used to use it in their baths, you know, their famous baths. And they used to use lavender in that. So you know that room, that bath must have smelled awesome. And the Greeks called it nardus because it was sold in a little town a lot, Narda, N-A-A-R-D-A. The Greeks it's kind of a nickname, a nardus, or for short, nard. So therefore, what happens in the Bible is there's another herb in the Bible called spikenard. Spikenard is listed in the Bible several different times. So this is another one of those herbs where there's a debate on the spikenard in the Bible. Is it lavender or is it spikenard herb? Well, spikenard is an herb that's separate from lavender. It's in the valerian family. It's called broadleaf lavender. And I truly believe that is the plant that's referred to in the Bible, spikenard. I think it got confused in there, and they're very similar, but it got confused in there because of the nard nickname that the Greeks gave it. And there's many other different translations throughout the years, but spikenard still and lavender still are connected in the Bible. So it's kind of neat. So what I'm going to do is, the confusion is in spikenard and lavender. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Spikenard actually is a flowering plant of the valerian family that I told you, and that actually comes from Nepal and the China area in India. So, and that is more valuable than our common lavender, because years ago that came from afar to come to the Holy Land. So it cost a lot of money to get it there. So therefore it was more valuable. And regular lavender, or common lavender, was grown more regionally, although it was still very precious, and you know, it wasn't cheap. It still was less expensive than the spikenard. So it probably comes from the Greeks calling lavender nardus, or nard. So the legend says, now I'm talking about lavender right now. The legend says that lavender grew in the Garden of Eden, right at the very beginning. And when Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, they took lavender with them. This is legend. So they took the lavender with them, and the legend has it that lavender really didn't smell like it smells now until Mary, when she was washing her clothes, and laid over the clothes over the bushes of lavender to dry for baby Jesus, all of a sudden, that's when lavender started to smell like lavender smells. So that is the legend throughout. If you look that up, you'll find that little legend in different languages and all over. I mean, it's really, I find it everywhere. And it's referenced throughout the Bible. It's referenced as spikenard. So, yeah, some people really think that lavender is a spikenard in the Bible. I'm not going to argue about it, because the spikenard has a camphor-y smell, looks similar, broader leaves, and that was a precious smell also. But now lavender, I'm going to read to you from, I love these love poems in the Songs of Solomon, and it's just so romantic. So in the Song of Solomon, I'm gonna lead you in with a couple verses before the nard is mentioned, because I think it's just so neat. I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Your cheeks are comely with ornaments, your neck with strings of pearls, of jewels I mean. We will make you ornaments of gold, studded with silver. While the king was on his couch, my nard gave forth its fragrance. So the nard was very valuable and very fragrant, was around the king, so it must have been very, very important. Then in the book of John, nard is also mentioned when Mary anoints Jesus's feet after the Passover, when Jesus went to the home of Lazarus. They gave him a dinner, and then Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table. And then Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard and anointed Jesus's feet and wiped them with her hair. And the whole house was filled with the fragrance of that perfume. Then, of course, Judas got a little upset. Why is she using that expensive perfume that you can sell it for like 300 denarii, or instead of giving that money to the poor? And the story goes on. And the nard that they're referring to, I don't think it was the lavender, but I think it was the spikenard that I'm talking about. They used to keep it in the alabaster jars, and it was very valuable. So, welcome to my potting bench. I'm going to show you how there's so many different kinds of lavender. The last time I looked, there's probably about 47 different varieties, but then there's so many different hybrids of it as well. Some of the hybrids that I have tried to grow over the years do not last over the winter. So I'm going to start with showing you English lavender. The English lavender is called English lavender, but it didn't come from England. It's just because when it finally got to England, it was so popular that it was in everybody's garden. English lavender is very hardy. You can find it readily at greenhouses. It is a time for it to be blooming right now. English lavender's fragrance is very strong and very beautiful. And all of these that I'm showing you are very common and can be found around here and planted in your gardens. Munstead, one of my favorites. It looks very gray, but when you grow it in your garden and this time of year it's more green. It's more gray when the plant is smaller. Now if you were to buy this and put it in your garden, more than likely it will not bloom until next year because it has to mature a little bit. Once in a while you might get a bloom or two off of it, but it is a small plant, but they don't take very long to mature. So next year it would be really great. Then we have Hidcote, which is another great hardy for in this area. It looks very similar to Munstead. Grosso. Grosso is a hybrid, actually, but it's a very common one. It's grown around our area a lot. It's what I have in my garden that is very huge right now and it's almost going to open. You can see they're a little grayer than what they are in my garden, but that, again, it's because it's a little bit of a younger plant. Then we have Phenomenal. These spikes of lavender get so... I've had them get like 3 foot tall. I need to plant a new one in my garden this year because they do get old, and the Phenomenal, I can't keep it over the winter every year. Don't know why. It's supposed to be hardy, but this one is a great one. Then we have Provence, which is a little bit less hardy, but I've had good success with it in my garden. Easy to grow as well. Beautiful, very beautiful. Then we have what's called Goodwin Creek. I don't know if you can tell how different those leaves are. They're a little ferny and they smell great. The fernier the leaves are and some of the lavenders, the more or the less hardy they are, the more fragile they are, I should say. And they don't always last over the winter, but they are very nice to have in your garden. So, let's see. We all know that lavender is deeply rooted in our history. Everybody knows lavender. Everybody has heard of lavender, I think. You find it in creams and shampoos and lip balm and lotions and potions and all kinds of stuff. There's so many things that you can do with lavender. Your own self, very easy things to use in your everyday living. I use lavender almost every day, I would think. You can use it. I have this necklace that opens up, and I can put some lavender essential oils in there to, opens up this way. You can find so many of these cool necklaces online and at your local craft stores and craft shows. They're fun to find there. I don't talk a whole lot in detail about essential oils because everybody has, if you're watching this, you have the internet, you know how to do some research on your own. because using essential oils is not something I can just say, go buy some essential oil and use it. It takes some practice and a little bit of knowledge about those essential oils, and that would take forever if I talked about that with each of one of my herbs. But lavender essential oil, as you can see, I buy it in bulk. I buy it in a large container because I use it so often. Lavender is very gentle for animals. I have to let my dog in the house. One moment. There you go. Hold on, June. It's very gentle to use in baby products. I'm sure you see it in baby products at the store. It is very gentle to use. Let's see here. They figured out after Mary threw the clothes over the bushes of lavender and how it smells. Well, over the years, that happened a lot. People would wash their clothes and hang it over their bushes, and you know, back in the Dark Ages, and when the plague was around, lavender was used to keep the plague away, to smell good, because they didn't smell so good all the time. So they used lavender a lot. They tucked them everywhere in their clothes. And it was even found in Egyptian hieroglyphics. Lavender has been indicated in those, and it has been found in mummies, and it still smells. It still has a lavender fragrance, the dried lavender, when they have found it in the mummification things. Oh, let's see here. In bunches of lavender were given to women to hold on to when they were having labor pains, to help soothe them, help calm them. Lavender is very calming and very soothing. It has so many wonderful properties. It helps with stress and anxiety. It's actually an adaptogen, which means it kind of adapts to the person's needs. So if I needed to calm down and go to sleep, when I reach for my lavender, I use essential oils, or you can use some dried lavender in these nice bags that you can easily buy anywhere. Tuck this in your pillow, stick it in your pillowcase. Safe for children as well. Helps you go to sleep. But if you need a little pick-me-up in the morning and you're feeling like your cup of coffee is not good and you're a little stressed about going to work, you can still smell your lavender, and it gives you picks you up, because it adapts to what your body is looking for. Great for soothing headaches. I mix lavender, cloves, and marjoram, all dried. I mix them together and put it in a little bag, and I call it a headache pillow. Equal parts of each. And if you're somebody who gets a lot of nagging headaches, it is really very soothing to sit back and smell the combination of the lavender and the cloves and the marjoram all together. They all work together and they help soothe the headache. It's great for your digestion and depression, upset stomach, nervousness, loss of appetite, colds, you name it. It is good for many things. And over the years, it has been found to be really good for your skin. A scientist many years ago got burnt, and he had a beaker. Why you have a beaker full of lavender essential oil beside you, I don't know, but it's good he did, because he put his hand in the beaker and found that his skin didn't scar as much, and it helped take the burn out, and it healed much faster. So then over the years, that scientist did some more testing, and there's still testing today going on about the properties of lavender. I have used lavender on burns more than I use aloe, the traditional aloe, on burns. It really does work very well. And when I use it, I do use the essential oil as what I'm referring to when I put it on a burn. Let's see, we have the lavender sachet, which I talked about. Lavender's association with love extends to Cleopatra, from Cleopatra to modern times. And it is said that Cleopatra used lavender to seduce Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. She's naughty. And not so long ago, women wore them in tussy mussies. And I could just hear Burl Ives singing Lavender Blue, Dilly Dilly. I'm not going to sing, I can't sing. But you know that song, I would hope. Lavender Blue, Burl Ives. My mom loves Burl Ives. Let's see here. I told you it belongs to the mint family, and there's so many varieties of it. I have over here some lavender that I have dried, and I want to show you when I pick my lavender. These have been dried. These are last year's lavender. Look how blue they stay, or purple. They are wonderful. I usually tie them in little bunches. I keep them in a plastic shoebox because the length of the shoebox holds my stems really nicely. I don't know if you have ever attempted, I have many friends who have attempted to make lavender wands. Lavender wands are great, fun, and relaxing to make. They're great to tuck in your drawers with your clothing, to pack your sweaters away for the winter or your summer clothes away. It is said to keep bugs away, keep little moths out of your clothes, plus it smells well. And when I go anywhere, in my suitcase, always tuck it in with the clothes. If anybody is interested in learning how to make a lavender wand, please let me know. Because pretty soon we'll be able to social distance in my backyard very safely, and I think that my lavender will be ready to make lavender wands in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I'll be glad to do it. We can sit out here in the backyard and show you how to do it. It takes a little patience. It's not hard. I have a lavender here that is a Spanish lavender. Now, Spanish lavender, I don't know if you can see, out the top, they have more purple petals coming out of the top of the Spanish lavender. Beautiful. It smells great as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a couple things that you can do with practical things you can do, easy things. I posted a video up just a few moments ago, about a half hour ago, I guess, on easy things that you can do with lavender. And one is you can make an all-purpose cleaner. All it is white vinegar and dried lavender flowers. I let this sit in the jar 10 days, maybe 14 days. And as you can see, this was white vinegar. And it does change the color. It gets a little pinkish. And you can use this as an all-purpose cleaner just like you use any other all-purpose cleaner. But what I do is I use 1 part of this to 2 parts of water. I put it in a spray bottle or in my basin, whatever I'm going to clean. And lavender has cleansing properties. Remember, part of its name comes from the word wash. Easy to do. Lavender, white vinegar, good to go. Lavender is also delicious. It can be a little overpowering, so less is more. If you make shortbread cookies, which I didn't make more shortbread cookies today, ran out of time, but you can make shortbread cookies and put dried lavender in there. Don't overdo the lavender, because it's very, very strong in the flavor, but boy, does it make a great shortbread cookie. Just put maybe a teaspoon into your recipe. of crushed up lavender flowers. It's good. Another thing, because I told you that this is very mild for children, lavender is, you can make homemade Play-Doh. Now, I'm not quite sure I like the color of this. I tried to get it to be purple. I mixed red and blue together. But I put lavender essential oil in here and some lavender flowers. I have my homemade Play-Doh recipe that I put online. This stuff is wonderful. Great for kids if you want to calm them down and give them something to do. And you just put some lavender in there, and it's fun for adults to play with as well. This will dry out, so if you make things and they want to make some cut out with cookie cutters or make some ornaments, you can still do that with this. It'll dry out for you, that recipe. Another way that I really love lavender taste-wise is lemonade. I love lavender lemonade. You can make your fresh homemade lemonade if you want. And what I do is I take 1 cup of water, boil it, put in my lavender flowers, and just let that steep. And I'm gonna say I put about 2 tablespoons of lavender flowers in that 1 cup of boiling water. Not on the heat, turn it off. Let it sit for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Strain the lavender off and just add that water to your lemonade. If you like country time, mixed up lemonade that you just put the powder and blah 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 for your kids to make it easy, you can still turn it into lavender lemonade. Just make some of that water and substitute it for the measure of water that you need to make your dry mix lemonade. It still tastes just as good. You can buy lemonade at the store already made and take a cup of water and do the same thing and add it to it, and you can tell everybody you made lavender lemonade. It's very tasty, and people are surprised when they give it a try, when they taste it. There are so many things about lavender. So I hope that I inspired you to look some more things up, because I only touched on a little bit of it. Everyone loves lavender. It's a wonderful thing to have close by. It's wonderful to have in your garden. Brush by it when you're gardening and you're touching it, and it does its thing. So, and it does have a lot of magical properties, all coming back to love and happiness. So that's the main thing here. And somewhere, there we go. Of course, I want to end the day with a little garden prayer. And you know, this week is Trinity Sunday, talking about God the Father, Son, Holy Spirit in church. And on Sunday, we will be doing our worship service live on YouTube instead of Facebook. Fingers crossed it works well, because we have this new video equipment here. I think it will work just fine. What was I going to say about the Holy Trinity? We're talking about some of the scripture lessons for the Holy Trinity is talking about creation and starting in Genesis. So that just, when you start reading it, you realize that God made this garden like right at the beginning of the Bible. So when I say often on these videos that the Bible starts in the garden, well, it's almost true, because God has to make creation first, but right away it starts in that garden. So here we go. If you can hear me above the airplane and the frogs and the waterfall, let us pray. Thank you, God, for sun and shower. Thank you for each stately tree. Thank you for each lovely flower. Through all of these, you speak to me. I hope everybody has a beautiful, blessed weekend. Go out, enjoy your garden, touch the lavender, and remember, the Bible started in a garden. Bye, everyone.